Okay, so we're diving into microdosing today.
Okay.
Silicon Valley is buzzing about it. Artists are claiming it boosts their creativity. Even scientists are kind of intrigued.
Yeah.
We've got a whole stack of research articles and anecdotal accounts. And basically, we're trying to figure out, is microdosing a legitimate creativity hack, or is it just hype?
Yeah. Well, one of the things that I find so fascinating about this whole thing is this urge that we all have to change our consciousness. It's not just like some modern fad or whatever. I mean, there's research suggesting that globally we spend about $4 trillion annually on activities that take us out of our normal everyday awareness.
$4 trillion. That's wild.
It's a lot.
I mean, I know I spend way too much time scrolling through social media.
Right.
But I wouldn't have thought it added up to that much globally.
Yeah.
What else is in this altered states economy, as you call it?
Oh, it's a vast landscape.
Okay.
Think gaming, virtual reality, even things like amusement parks and extreme sports. All of it points to this deep-seated human desire to shift our mental state, to experience something beyond just the everyday.
Yeah, and it's not just us humans, right? I read that animals get in on the action, too.
Absolutely. Dolphins have been observed getting high on pufferfish.
Oh, wow.
Wallabies munch on poppies. And some birds even seem to enjoy marijuana seeds.
Really?
It seems like this drive to alter consciousness is deeply rooted across species.
So it's not just some human quirk.
No.
Huh. This makes me wonder, I mean, is there some sort of evolutionary advantage to seeking out these altered states?
That's a great question, and it's one that researchers are still kind of exploring.
Okay.
Some speculate that altered states might have helped our ancestors enhance creativity, problem solving, and social bonding.
Makes sense.
All crucial skills for survival.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so we've established that humans and even animals have been messing with their minds for a long time.
Yeah.
But what about this whole microdosing trend?
Yeah.
Where does that fit in?
So microdosing is essentially taking subperceptual doses of psychedelics.
Huh.
Typically LSD or psilocybin mushrooms.
Gotcha.
The idea is to enhance things like creativity-focused mood without experiencing a full-blown psychedelic trip.
So it's like getting the benefits without the trip part.
Exactly.
Okay.
And there's some interesting science emerging around how microdosing might work on the brain.
Okay.
One key concept is something called transient hypofrontality.
That's a mouthful.
I know, right?
Write that down for me.
Essentially, it means that certain parts of the brain,
Okay.
particularly the prefrontal cortex, the area responsible for planning, decision-making, and kind of our inner critic,
Yeah.
it becomes temporarily less active.
So it's like silencing that inner voice. It's always telling us we're not good enough.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And this quieting of the inner critic might explain why people report feeling more creative, less inhibited, and more in flow when they're microdosing.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, when I'm feeling self-conscious or stuck,
Yeah,
it's hard to come up with new ideas. It's like my creativity gets blocked.
totally. And this idea of accessing flow states is something that's being explored not just by microdosers, but also by elite performers like Navy SEALs.
Wait, Navy SEALs, those hardcore military guys are into microdosing.
Not exactly. They're interested in achieving flow states through other means,
Okay.
like intense training and biofeedback techniques.
Interesting.
They've even built a multi-million-dollar facility called the Mind Gym to help them access these optimal performance states.
Wow, a mind gym. I guess even elite warriors are realizing that mental training is just as important as physical training.
Absolutely. And it's not just the military sex. Companies like Google are investing heavily in employee well-being, including mindfulness centers with neurofeedback devices and meditation rooms.
So even in the fast-paced, tech-driven world of Silicon Valley,
Right.
there's a growing recognition of the power of mental training in altered states.
Precisely. And it speaks to this broader shift we're seeing where practices and ideas that were once considered fringe
Yeah.
are becoming more mainstream.
Okay, so we've got Navy SEALs training their minds, Google execs meditating, and dolphins getting high on pufferfish.
Right.
What's the common thread here?
It seems like we're all searching for ways to optimize our mental states, to tap into our full potential, whether it's through ancient practices or cutting-edge technologies.
And microdosing is just one piece of that puzzle.
Exactly. It's a tool, and like any tool, it can be used for good or for ill.
Right.
The key is understanding how it works, the potential risks, and most importantly, having a clear intention for why you're using it.
Okay, so we've kind of set the stage here.
Yeah.
We've got this ancient drive to alter our consciousness.
Yeah.
a growing understanding of how these states affect the brain, and a whole spectrum of approaches from microdosing to mindfulness.
Yeah.
But the big question remains, does microdosing actually work?
That's what we're here to find out.
Okay.
Let's dive into some of the research and the real-life accounts of people who swear by this practice.
All right, let's get into it. I'm ready to have my mind blown.
Hold on tight, because this is where it gets really interesting. One fascinating case study comes from the world of psychedelic research, the story of Alexander Shulgin.
Okay, I've heard the name, but refresh my memory.
Yeah.
Who was this guy?
Alexander Shulgin was a chemist often referred to as the godfather of psychedelics.
Oh.
He synthesized over 200 mind-altering compounds.
Wow.
Including MDMA, also known as ecstasy.
Wow, 200 compounds.
Yeah.
That's a lot of experimenting with consciousness. What was he trying to achieve?
Shulgin was driven by a deep curiosity about the potential of psychedelics to unlock the human mind.
Okay.
He believed that these substances could be valuable tools for therapy, personal growth, and spiritual exploration.
That's a far cry from the drugs are bad narrative we often hear.
Absolutely. And Shulgin's work was controversial, to say the least.
Yeah.
But it opened up new avenues for understanding consciousness and sparked a revolution in underground culture.
Yeah, his story raises a lot of questions about who controls access to these altered states, right?
Yes.
Governments, institutions, researchers, they all seem to have a stake in regulating these experiences.
That's a crucial point. Throughout history, there's been this tension between those who want to restrict access to altered states and those who want to liberate them.
It's like the age-old battle between control and freedom playing out in the realm of consciousness.
Exactly. And this tension is at the heart of the microdosing debate as well. On one hand, you have people advocating for personal liberty and the right to explore their own consciousness.
Yeah.
On the other, you have concerns about safety addiction and the potential for misuse.
So it's a complex issue with no easy answers.
Absolutely. But understanding this historical context helps us see that the microdosing debate isn't just about science or personal experiences. It's about our fundamental values and beliefs about the nature of consciousness, freedom, and control.
Wow, that's a lot to unpack.
Right.
But I'm starting to see how microdosing is more than just a trendy biohack.
Yeah.
It's tapping into some deep-seated human desires and raising some big questions about our relationship with our own minds.
You're getting it. And to understand just how deep this rabbit hole goes, we need to explore another fascinating connection. The link between mystical experiences and, wait for it,
What?
shopping sprees.
Shopping sprees. What do those have to do with altered states?
Well, neuroscientists have discovered that some of the same brain regions light up when we're having a spiritual experience and when we're indulging in retail therapy.
Hold on. So you're telling me that my urge to buy that new gadget might be driven by the same brain circuitry that lights up when someone has a religious epiphany?
That's what the research suggests. It's not to say that shopping is the same as having a profound spiritual experience.
Okay.
But it does point to the complex interplay between our desire for meaning, pleasure, and transcendence.
So could it be that our consumerist culture is in a way tapping into this ancient human desire for altered states?
That's a fascinating question, and it makes you wonder if we're constantly seeking fulfillment in all the wrong places.
Yeah, if we could access those feelings of awe, wonder, and connection in healthier, more sustainable ways,
Right.
would we be so obsessed with buying stuff?
That's the million-dollar question. And it brings us back to the potential of microdosing and other practices that allow us to intentionally influence our consciousness.
Okay, my mind is officially blown.
Yeah.
We've gone from dolphins on pufferfish to Navy SEALs training for flow states to the neuroscience of shopping sprees. I'm starting to see how all of this connects.
And we've only just scratched the surface.
Where do we go from here?
Let's explore another example of how altered states are being used to drive real-world change.
Okay.
Burning Man.
Ah, Burning Man. The annual festival in the Nevada desert, known for its art music, and let's be honest, its reputation for wild parties. What does that have to do with microdosing or altered states?
Burning Man is more than just a party. It's a social experiment, a temporary city built on principles of radical self-expression community, and you guessed it, altered states.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Tell me more.
What's remarkable about Burning Man is that it seems to create a powerful catalyst for personal growth and creative breakthroughs. A staggering 75% of attendees report profound, lasting changes after the festival.
So it's not just about letting loose and escaping reality for a week.
Right.
There's a deeper transformation happening for many people who attend.
Exactly. And what's interesting is that Burning Man's success might lie in its unique blend of altered states, art, and community.
Sounds like a recipe for a powerful experience.
It is. And by understanding how Burning Man facilitates these transformative experiences, we might glean insights into how to harness the power of altered states in other contexts.
Okay.
Whether it's in our personal lives, our workplaces, or even our communities.
All right. I'm officially hooked. Let's delve deeper into this Burning Man phenomenon and see what lessons we can learn.
So what's fascinating about Burning Man is that it's not just some random gathering in the desert.
Right.
There's a deliberate intention behind it, a set of principles that guide the experience and create the conditions for these transformative experiences.
Yeah, I remember reading about their 10 principles: radical inclusion, gifting decommodification, radical self-reliance, radical self-expression, communal effort, civic responsibility, leaving no trace immediacy and participation. It's like a blueprint for creating a temporary utopia.
And many of these principles directly support the conditions for achieving non-ordinary states of consciousness. For example, the principle of gifting encourages generosity and connection, which can trigger the release of oxytocin, the bonding hormone.
So it's not just about the art installations and the crazy costumes.
No.
There's a deeper social and psychological dynamic at play that's contributing to these transformative experiences.
Exactly. And this idea of using intentional design to create environments that support altered states is starting to be applied in other contexts as well.
Okay.
We're seeing the emergence of transformational festivals and consciousness hacking meetups that borrow from the Burning Man model.
So it's like Burning Man is a sort of petri dish for experimenting with new ways of being together and exploring different states of consciousness.
Yeah.
And some of those experiments are now spilling out into the wider world.
That's a great way to put it. And it's not just happening in the realm of festivals and events.
Yep.
We're seeing similar principles being applied in workplaces, schools, and even healthcare settings.
Okay, so we've talked about how altered states can boost creativity and problem solving, and how environments like Burning Man can facilitate those states.
Right.
But can we get a little more specific?
Sure.
Are there any real-world examples of how these ideas are leading to actual breakthroughs? Like, are people actually having aha moments and coming up with innovative solutions because they're microdosing or going to Burning Man?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
One striking example comes from the world of sailing.
Okay.
In 2013, Larry Ellison, the billionaire founder of Oracle, was obsessed with winning the America's Cup, the most prestigious sailing race in the world.
I remember that. He poured millions of dollars into building the most technologically advanced boat ever.
Yeah.
But they were still getting beat by the New Zealand team.
Right.
What happened?
So,
Did they start microdosing their sailors?
not quite. All that technology was actually obscuring a fundamental insight.
Okay.
Ellison's team was relying on complex computer models to plan their race strategy, but the New Zealand team was taking a more intuitive, embodied approach.
Okay.
They were literally feeling the wind and the waves and adjusting their course accordingly.
So it's like they were in a flow state,
Yeah.
trusting their instincts and responding to the environment in real time, while Ellison's team was stuck in their heads analyzing data.
Precisely. And it was only when Ellison's skipper Jimmy Spithill finally let go of the data and started trusting his intuition that they were able to turn the race around and win.
That's such a great example of how over-reliance on technology and analysis can actually hinder performance, especially in dynamic, unpredictable environments. Sometimes you just have to trust your gut, right?
Exactly. And this isn't just true for sailing.
Go ahead.
We're seeing similar dynamics play out in fields like business design and even scientific research.
Yeah.
There's a growing recognition that intuition and creativity are essential for solving complex problems.
So it's not about abandoning technology altogether.
No,
It's about finding the right balance between analysis and intuition, between the head and the heart.
that's the key. And what's exciting is that we're now developing tools and techniques that can help us bridge that gap. For example, neurofeedback devices can help us train our brains to enter flow states more easily.
Oh.
While virtual reality can create immersive environments that stimulate creativity and innovation.
It's almost like we're learning to hack our own consciousness to achieve specific outcomes.
Right.
But isn't there a risk that we'll become too reliant on these technologies?
Uh-huh.
That we'll lose touch with our own innate abilities? Like, if we could just pop a microdose or strap on a VR headset to be creative, will we stop putting in the hard work to develop those skills naturally?
That's a valid concern, and it's why it's so important to approach these tools with awareness and intention.
Okay.
It's not about replacing our own intuition and creativity, but about augmenting and expanding them. Think of it like this. A telescope doesn't replace the astronomer's skill and knowledge.
Right.
It enhances their ability to see further and deeper into the cosmos.
That's a great analogy.
Yeah.
So it's all about how we use these tools.
Right.
They can be powerful allies in our quest for creativity and insight, but we need to be mindful of not becoming overly dependent on them.
Exactly. And it's important to remember that these technologies are still relatively new,
Okay.
and we're only beginning to understand their long-term effects.
So proceed with caution and a healthy dose of skepticism.
Absolutely. Critical thinking is essential in a world of information overload, especially when it comes to things that promise to enhance our minds.
Okay. I'm on board with that.
Yeah.
But you know, this whole conversation has got me thinking about something we discussed earlier.
Yeah.
The idea that the desire to alter our consciousness might be as fundamental as the drive for food or sex. If that's true, then it makes sense that we'd be seeing such a surge in interest and innovation in this space.
Yep.
It's like we're tapping into something deep within ourselves, something that's been there all along.
That's a powerful insight. And it suggests that we're only just beginning to understand the true potential of human consciousness. As we develop more sophisticated tools and techniques for exploring and influencing our own minds, who knows what incredible breakthroughs we might achieve.
It's both exciting and a little daunting, right?
Sure.
I mean, if we can literally rewire our brains to experience different states of consciousness, what does that mean for our sense of self, our values, our very humanity?
Yeah.
Are we becoming more than human, or are we losing something essential in the process?
Those are profound questions. And as we delve deeper into this exploration, we'll need to grapple with the ethical and philosophical implications of these technologies. But one thing is certain. The future of consciousness is wide open, and the possibilities are truly mind-blowing.
All right, so we've talked about the science behind altered states. We've explored real-world examples of how they're being used to drive innovation.
Right.
And we've even touched on some of the philosophical implications.
Yeah.
But there's one more piece of the puzzle we need to address: the potential risks.
This is crucial, because while there's a lot of excitement about the potential benefits of microdosing and other ecstatic technologies,
Right.
it's essential to be aware of the potential downsides. And some of them are quite serious.
Right. We can't just gloss over the fact that these are powerful tools that can have unpredictable effects, especially when used irresponsibly.
Yeah.
It's like playing with fire.
Right.
You need to know what you're doing and take the necessary precautions.
Exactly. And one of the biggest risks is that we'll become too reliant on these external means to achieve altered states.
Okay.
Remember, throughout history, humans have developed a wide range of practices for accessing non-ordinary states of consciousness.
Right.
From meditation and yoga to ritual dance and drumming.
And these practices often require discipline, dedication, and years of training.
Absolutely.
It's not as simple as popping a pill or strapping on a neurofeedback device.
Right.
It's like the difference between taking a shortcut and actually hiking the entire trail.
Yeah.
You might get to the destination faster,
Right.
but you'll miss out on the journey and the lessons learned along the way.
That's right. And there's a concern that as these technologies become more readily available, we'll lose touch with these traditional practices and the wisdom they embody.
It's like the difference between fast food and a home-cooked meal. Sure, fast food is quick and convenient, but it lacks the nourishment and depth of something that's been prepared with care and attention.
That's a great analogy. And it's important to remember that these traditional practices weren't just about achieving altered states.
Right.
They were often embedded in a broader spiritual or cultural framework that provided meaning and purpose.
So it's not just about the state itself,
Right.
but about the context in which it's experienced.
Yes.
Like taking a psychedelic in a clinical setting with a therapist might be very different from taking it at a rave.
Exactly. And there's a risk that if we isolate these states from their traditional context, we'll lose sight of their deeper significance.
Yeah.
We might end up chasing fleeting highs instead of cultivating lasting transformation.
And what about the psychological risks? We talked about eschatophobia,
Right.
the feeling that the world is ending.
Yeah.
But are there other potential downsides?
Sure.
Could microdosing or other altered state technologies actually make people's mental health worse?
That's a real concern. Any substance or practice that alters consciousness has the potential to trigger underlying psychological issues. For example, someone with a predisposition to anxiety or psychosis could experience an exacerbation of symptoms if they use psychedelics or engage in intense altered states. It's like if you have a weak foundation, building a skyscraper on top of it is only going to make things worse.
So it's not something to be taken lightly.
No.
It's important to be aware of your own mental health history and to proceed with caution, right?
Absolutely. And it's crucial to have proper guidance and support, especially if you're exploring these states for the first time.
Right.
Don't just experiment on your own.
Right.
Seek out experienced practitioners or therapists who can provide safe and informed guidance.
It sounds like you're saying that these tools can be powerful for healing and growth,
Yeah.
but they can also be dangerous if used improperly.
That's the paradox. And it's why intention is so crucial.
Speaking of guidance, let's talk about the role of intention. We've mentioned this a few times,
Right.
but it seems like it's a key factor in how these states are experienced and integrated. It's like if you're going on a road trip,
Right.
you need to know where you're going and why you're going there. Otherwise, you're just wandering aimlessly.
You're absolutely right. Intention is everything when it comes to altered states.
Yeah.
What's your purpose for exploring these states? What are you hoping to learn or achieve?
Okay.
Are you seeking deeper self-awareness, creative breakthroughs, or a spiritual awakening? Or are you just looking for a quick fix or an escape from reality?
Because if you're just chasing a high or trying to escape from reality,
Right.
you're likely to miss the deeper potential.
Yeah.
You might even end up doing more harm than good.
Exactly. But if you approach these states with a clear intention, with a desire to learn, grow, and connect more deeply with yourself and the world around you, then the possibilities are truly limitless.
It's like setting out on a journey. You need to know where you're going and why you're going there. Otherwise, you're just wandering aimlessly.
That's a great way to put it. And just like any journey, there will be challenges and obstacles along the way. But with the right preparation, guidance, and support, you can navigate those challenges and emerge transformed. The key is to approach these states with respect, humility, and a willingness to learn.
So we've talked about the risks, the importance of intention, the need for guidance. But let's zoom out for a second.
Okay?
What does this all mean for the average person?
Right.
Is this just something for elite performers, Silicon Valley types, and hardcore spiritual seekers? Or is there something here for the rest of us?
That's a great question. And I think it's important to remember that altered states aren't some new invention.
Right.
They've been a part of human experience for as long as we've been around.
Right. We talked about ancient rituals,
Yeah.
shamanic traditions, even those dolphins getting high on pufferfish.
Exactly.
It's not like we just discovered this thing.
Exactly. What's new is that we're starting to understand the science behind these states.
Okay.
And to develop tools that allow us to access them more intentionally and reliably.
And that means we have more choices than ever before.
Right.
We can choose to engage with these states through traditional practices, through technology, or through some combination of the two.
And that's where things get really interesting, because as these choices become more widespread, it's going to force us to confront some fundamental questions about what it means to be human.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Give me an example.
Well, think about something like creativity. If we can use neurofeedback to train our brains to enter flow states on demand,
Right.
does that mean that anyone can become a Mozart or a Picasso?
Whoa. So are you saying that talent is just a brain state that we can hack our way into? That seems a little too sci-fi to me.
It's not that simple.
Okay.
Talent is complex. It's a combination of innate ability, hard work, and environmental factors.
Sure.
But I do think that technology can play a role in enhancing our creative potential.
So it's like giving us a boost, helping us tap into those creative states more easily.
Yeah, exactly. And I think we're just scratching the surface of what's possible. Imagine a world where we can use technology to overcome creative blocks, to unlock new levels of inspiration, to collaborate in ways we never thought possible.
That's pretty mind-blowing. But it also makes me wonder, what about authenticity?
Yeah.
If we're using technology to engineer these creative experiences, do they lose some of their meaning?
That's a great question, and one that artists and philosophers are grappling with. I think it comes back to intention.
Okay.
If we're using these tools to simply mimic or replicate existing forms of creativity, then yes, there's a risk of losing something essential.
Okay.
But if we're using them to explore uncharted territory, to push the boundaries of human expression, then I think the possibilities are truly exciting.
So it's not about replacing human creativity, but about expanding it, augmenting it.
Exactly. Think of it like this. A paintbrush doesn't replace the artist's vision or skill. It's a tool that allows them to express themselves more fully.
Okay.
And I think technology can play a similar role in the realm of consciousness.
Okay. I'm starting to see the potential here, but let's talk about the other big elephant in the room, spirituality.
Okay.
If we can use psychedelics to induce mystical experiences, does that make those experiences any less meaningful or profound?
That's a question that has been debated for centuries, and there's no easy answer. I think it depends on your perspective on spirituality.
Okay.
If you believe that spiritual experiences are solely the domain of religious institutions or ancient traditions, then you might be skeptical of using technology to access these states.
Yeah.
But if you see spirituality as a more universal human capacity, a way of connecting with something greater than ourselves, then I think technology can be a valuable tool.
So it's not about replacing traditional spiritual practices, but about expanding our toolkit and exploring new avenues for connecting with something greater than ourselves.
Exactly. And I think this is where the concept of intention becomes so important. If we're using these tools to simply chase fleeting highs or to escape from reality, then we're likely to miss the deeper potential. But if we're using them with a genuine desire to learn, grow, and connect, then I believe they can be powerful catalysts for spiritual transformation.
Well, I don't know about you, but my mind is definitely swirling with possibilities after this deep dive.
Yeah.
It seems like we're standing at the edge of a brave new world, one where the boundaries of consciousness are becoming increasingly fluid and malleable. And it's both exhilarating and a little terrifying.
It is. And as with any new frontier, there are risks and uncertainties. But I believe that the potential benefits to the possibility of unlocking new levels of creativity, insight, and connection are worth exploring carefully and thoughtfully, of course.
So here's something for you to ponder. If we're entering an era where we can intentionally shape our own consciousness, what kind of future do we want to create? What kind of humans do we want to become? It's a question that's worth asking, and the answers are ultimately up to us.
It's an exciting time to be alive. The future of consciousness is wide open, and the journey is just beginning.